Her lips moved, forming a word he couldn't hear over the noise of the city. Kieran noticed a strange device on her arm, pulsing with red light, and realized it was some kind of life support or medical tool. The device was failing, and the woman's breathing was shallow, quick, like she had only minutes left. People in the crowd began to murmur louder, some taking out small devices, ready to call for help or record the scene. But Kieran's mind raced faster than theirs, thinking about the possibilities, the dangers, the risks. He had studied rare human conditions before, but this was unlike anything he had seen. Her blood, he realized suddenly, might be unique, altered by something scientific or unnatural, and somehow it seemed connected to his own health, though he did not understand how yet. The air smelled metallic, and Kieran could feel a slight tingling in his veins, almost like electricity running under his skin. He looked at the crowd, but they were frozen with fear, unwilling to act. He took a deep breath, knowing the choice he was about to make would change everything. Without thinking further, he made a decision, a choice that was both brave and dangerous. Kieran extended his arm, his veins visible under his skin. He whispered, "I'll help you, no matter what." The woman's eyes widened slightly, a faint glimmer of hope shining to pain. He connected a small portable device to her arm, designed to transfer blood in a controlled way. The crowd gasped, some stepping back in fear, some watching in awe. They had never seen someone risk their own life for a stranger, especially in this cold, futuristic city. The machine hummed softly, and Kieran felt a sudden warmth in his chest. It was like his body knew exactly what to do, sending life through his veins into hers. Time seemed to slow. The city noise was fading, leaving only the rhythmic pulse of the machine and the quick gasp of the woman. Kieran's mind raced with fear, worry, and an odd sense of calm, all at the same time. What if he made a mistake? What if his body couldn't handle it? Yet, as he looked at her face, pale but slowly gaining color, he knew he had no choice but to continue. Minutes felt like hours, and every second was filled with tension. The woman's breathing became steadier, her eyelids less heavy, and her lips moved again. Trying to speak, Kieran strained to hear, leaning closer, but all he caught was a faint whisper of her name. He didn't understand it yet, but it felt important, almost like a key to something bigger, something beyond their current reality. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded from the device, and the red light turned bright, flashing urgently. The crowd panicked, shouting, "Stop! You're killing him!" Kieran ignored them, focusing on the woman, feeling a strange energy coursing through his veins. It was not pain, but a sensation he had never experienced. Like his body was waking up in ways he didn't know possible. His heart raced, but he felt strong, alive, as the act of saving her was also giving him something back. After what felt like an eternity, the woman's eyes opened fully, clear and bright. She took a deep, steady breath, the color returning to her cheeks. Kieran smiled, exhausted but relieved. Noe had done something incredible. The crowd stood silently, watching, some in awe, some in disbelief. No one moved, no one spoke, except for a faint sound coming from the woman, almost like a sigh of gratitude. Kieran felt a mix of fear and wonder, not yet knowing that this moment was only the beginning. The connection between them had started, and it was stronger than anything he had ever imagined. As he helped her sit up, a sudden flash of light illuminated the alley. Something or someone was watching them from above, hidden in the shadows. Kieran sensed it immediately, the feeling of being observed, and in that moment, he knew the night was far from over. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next, and Kieran, tired but determined, realized that his choice to help her had set in motion events that could change not only their lives, but the world itself. Kieran felt the woman's pulse strengthen under his hands, the warmth of life slowly returning to her body. Yet even as relief washed over him, a cold fear crept into his chest. Whispering warnings he could not ignore, he stepped back, breathing heavily, noticing the strange device still attached to her arm, blinking urgently. Something about it was not just medical. It seemed alive, pulsing with a rhythm that matched hers, and somehow it also seemed to resonate with him. The woman looked up at him, her eyes wide, almost pleading. Kieran wanted to speak, to reassure her, but he realized he did not know what words could possibly comfort someone in her condition. Her lips moved slowly, forming words that were just barely audible. "Blood. Only blood can save me," she whispered, her voice weak but urgent. Kieran froze. his mind racing, remembering the rare experiments he had once studied, the legends of genetically unique blood that could heal the sick or even awaken hidden potential. Could this woman's survival really depend on his own blood? He glanced down at his arm, feeling the warmth of life running through his veins. For a moment, doubt gripped him, twisting his stomach into knots. If he gave too much, he could weaken himself permanently, or worse. His colleagues had always warned him about rare blood transfusions, the dangers of altering one's own body in an unpredictable way. Yet as he looked at her, lying frail and trembling, he felt a surge of determination, stronger than fear. "Whatever it takes, I will save you," he murmured to himself, his hands trembling slightly. The device seemed to respond, the red lights pulsing faster, as if it had heard his promise. Kieran knew there was no turning back. He found a small console near the device and studied it carefully, trying to understand how it worked. He noticed a set of instructions blinking on the screen. Only compatible blood of donor required. Risk to donor unknown. The words were chilling, yet he could not ignore them. As he prepared to transfer, the crowd around him began to murmur again, some filming the scene, some whispering warnings. Kieran ignored them, focusing entirely on the woman, on the faint rise and fall of her chest, on the life that clung so desperately to this world. He took a deep breath, rolled up his sleeve, and connected the device to his own veins. A sharp prick, a rush of heat, and then the machine began its work, drawing his blood gently, carefully, into the woman's body. Almost immediately, Kieran felt something strange, almost electric, running through him. It was not pain, but a sensation that made his vision blur and sharpen at the same time. He felt stronger, yet weaker, more aware of his surroundings, every sound, every flicker of light, every tiny movement in the alley magnified. The city around him seemed to fade, replaced by a strange tunnel of light and energy, connecting him to woman. Her eyes, once dull and lifeless, began to glow faintly again, reflecting the pulsing light of the device. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Every heartbeat of hers was mirrored in his chest. Every shiver echoed through his body. And then, suddenly, the device let out a loud beep, alarming the crowd. The red lights flashed rapidly, and the console displayed a warning. Donor instability detected. Panic gripped Kieran for a moment, his heart pounding. Had he given too much? Was he about to collapse in the middle of the alley? The woman stirred, her fingers twitching, reaching out toward him. "Kieran," she whispered, a name he had not yet known she could speak. Yet somehow it sounded familiar. A strange warmth filled him at the sound of it, a connection that went beyond logic or reason. The device beeped again, then quieted, its red light dimming to a soft, steady glow. Kieran's body shook, but he realized he was still standing, stronger in ways he could not explain. Something extraordinary had begun, something far beyond a simple blood transfusion. The woman opened her eyes fully, staring at him with a mixture of fear and recognition, as if she remembered something important, yet could not name it. Kieran noticed that the air around him felt charged, almost alive, a low hum, like the energy of the city itself had shifted, surrounded them. The crowd around them remained silent, sensing the unusual, almost supernatural change. Suddenly, a shadow moved above them, a figure watching from a distance, hidden in the neon haze. Kieran's instincts screamed danger, and he moved protectively in front of the woman. He could feel something powerful about this person or being, yet he could not see them clearly. A chill ran down his spine as the realization hit him. This was not just an accident, and the woman was not merely a victim. Someone or something wanted her, and now they would know she had protected her. "Kieran, what is happening to us?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. He shook his head, not sure how to explain the strange sensations in his body. "All I know is we need to move," he said, scanning the alley for escape routes. As he lifted her carefully into his arms, he felt a faint pulse of her life, and something else, a deeper rhythm connecting them. It was a bond that went beyond blood, beyond logic, something that felt ancient and powerful. As they stepped into the shadowed streets, the city seemed to pulse around them, alive with unseen eyes. Kieran knew their lives had changed forever. Every corner could hold danger. Every passerby could be watching. And yet, beneath the fear, there was hope, a spark that neither of them could ignore, a spark that promised incredible discoveries, unimaginable risks, and a connection that would shape their future in ways neither of them could yet understand. For Kieran, the choice to risk his own life had been terrifying, but in that moment, holding the woman in his arms, he understood one thing clearly. Some choices were worth every risk, and some connections were worth everything, even if it meant facing dangers far beyond anything he had ever imagined. Kieran carried the woman through the neon-lit streets. His heart still pounded with a strange energy that coursed through his veins. Every step he took felt heavier, yet lighter at the same time, as if the city itself was guiding him. The woman, still pale but slowly gaining color, clung weakly to his arm, her eyes wide with confusion and wonder. She looked at him, trying to speak, but the words faltered, stuck somewhere between memory and reality. Her gaze seemed to pierce through him, searching for something he did not yet understand. As they reached a quiet alley away from the crowd, Kieran set her down gently, keeping his hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked, though he could feel the answer in the strange warmth radiating from her body. Her chest rose steadily, her breathing smooth, and yet a faint glow seemed to ripple under her skin, like light trapped beneath a thin veil. Kieran stepped back, shocked, his eyes widening as he noticed something impossible. His own hands, glowing faintly as well, reflecting the pulse of her life. It was as if the act of giving his blood had done more than save her. It had connected them in ways neither of them could explain. He felt a sudden surge of energy, a current running through him that was both frightening and exhilarating. His vision sharpened, every detail of the alley illuminated with clarity. He could see the tiniest movements of insects on the walls, the flicker of distant lights, even the faintest breathing of people in nearby buildings. It was more than enhanced senses. It was like he could feel the life force of everything around him. And then, faintly, he felt the rhythm of her heartbeat in his own chest, syncing perfectly with his own. The woman opened her eyes fully, staring at him with a mixture of fear and awe. I can feel something," she whispered, her voice trembling. Kieran nodded, unable to find the words to describe the sensation. "Me too," he said finally. "But we need to understand it before it overwhelms us." The device that had connected them earlier beeped softly, as if acknowledging the change, its red light dimming to a calm blue. Kieran realized that their bond was no longer just physical. It was something deeper, almost spiritual, a shared energy neither of them could control. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the alley, carrying with it a strange, metallic scent. Kieran's instinct screamed that danger was near, and he felt the pulse in his chest quicken. The woman turned her head sharply. Sensing it too, from the shadows above, a figure moved silently, watching them with intent. Kieran's heart raced. He could feel the presence in every fiber of his being. The connection between him and the woman made him aware of the threat before it even acted. He grabbed her hand instinctively, and the moment their skin touched, a wave of energy surged outward. The streetlights flickered, and even the distant hum of the city seemed to change tone. It was as if their bond had awakened something dormant in the world around them. Kieran realized that the act of giving his blood had done more than save her. It had started a chain reaction. The woman's eyes widened as she too felt it, a power rising within her. "Something's inside me," she gasped, her voice barely audible. Kieran nodded, understanding the truth before she fully spoke it. "This isn't just healing. It's something bigger," he said, his voice steady despite the fear creeping into his mind. The shadows shifted again, and Kieran felt the presence move closer, silent but undeniable. He pulled the woman closer to him, ready to defend her, but he also knew that this presence was more than human. A low hum filled the alley, vibrating through his bones, and he realized the energy between them was reacting to it. It was a warning or maybe a challenge, and the intensity of the bond he shared with the woman seemed to grow stronger in response. She looked up at him, fear mingling with curiosity, as if she could sense the changes within him as clearly as he could feel hers. Suddenly, the woman raised her hand, almost instinctively, and a pulse of energy shot outward, knocking the shadows back. Kieran staggered at the raw force, feeling the energy surge through his own body. It was as if the bond had unlocked abilities neither of them had imagined. And yet, with the power came fear, because they had no control, only instinct. The presence above him vanished, retreating into the darkness. Kieran breathed heavily, feeling both relief and dread, knowing that the moment was only temporary. Someone or something was watching, waiting, and the bond between him and the woman would not go unnoticed. She looked at him then, eyes wide and shining. "I don't know what's happening, but I feel safe with you, she whispered, her voice trembling but strong. Kieran smiled faintly, though his mind raced. I don't know how, but we'll figure this out, he said, his eyes scanning the dark alleys, every shadow, every corner, alert for the next threat. And even as he said it, he felt a strange warmth, a reassurance that they were somehow stronger together. The bond that had begun with a simple act of courage, a gift of his blood, was now something more profound, something that could change not just their lives, but the world around them as they moved through the city streets. Kieran could feel the energy flowing between them like a current. Every step brought a new awareness, every glance a connection deeper than words could describe. And though the night was far from over, he knew one thing for certain. The miracle had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The city never truly slept, but tonight it felt quieter, as if it, too, was holding its breath. Kieran guided the woman through narrow alleys and silent streets, his senses sharper than ever, every flicker of movement, every sound, every heartbeat around them amplified. He noticed things he had never paid attention before, the faint shimmer of a drone far above, the subtle vibrations of the road beneath their feet, even the slight changes in the air pressure as they moved. It was exhausting, yet exhilarating, and he knew that this heightened awareness was tied to the bond between him and the woman, a bond born from the transfusion, a bond neither of them fully understood. The woman, still fragile but recovering, walked beside him now, her steps hesitant yet determined. She reached out occasionally, touching walls, sensors, and the faint pulsing lights of the city, and Kieran noticed that wherever she touched, a small ripple of energy spread outward. It was subtle at first, barely visible but unmistakable. He realized that the blood transfer had done more than save her. It had awakened something inside both of them, something powerful and mysterious. He wondered, silently, was it purely physical, or was there something deeper, a connection that went beyond the body and into the mind, the soul, or even beyond human understanding? Kieran, do you feel it too? She asked suddenly, her voice low and unsure. He nodded, feeling the strange currents linking them. It's like we can sense each other, he said. Not just what we see, but what we feel, what we know, almost before it happens. She looked at him with wide eyes, fear and wonder mixed together. I don't understand it, but it's comforting, she whispered, almost shyly, like I've known you before. Kieran's heart skipped, a strange shiver running down his spine, because he felt the same, though he had never met her before tonight. It was impossible, and yet undeniable, a connection that defied reason, logic, and even time. As they continued through the dim streets, the bond grew stronger, almost pulsing visibly in the faint light of the neon signs. Kieran noticed that their heartbeats had begun to synchronize, rising and falling together. Even more unnerving, he could feel her emotions as if they were his own, every fear, every hope, every flicker of thought. It was beautiful, terrifying, and entirely new. He realized then that the transfusion had done more than give life. It had intertwined them in ways he could not yet control, and the realization brought both awe and dread, because with connection came vulnerability. Suddenly, a distant noise shattered the quiet, a sharp, metallic sound echoing from a nearby alley. Kieran stiffened, feeling the presence of someone or something. Approaching, his heightened senses told him the intruder was not human, at least not entirely. The woman froze beside him, sensing it too, and the bond between them flared, sending a pulse of energy outward. The streetlights flickered violently, and shadows danced unnaturally along the walls. Kieran's heart pounded, and he knew this was no ordinary threat. Whatever had been watching before was now closing in, and it knew they were powerful. Together, he grabbed her hand, and immediately they both felt a surge, an almost electric recognition. It was as if the bond between them could react, protect, and respond to danger instinctively. Kieran's mind raced, realizing that they were no longer merely humans. They were something else now, something different, and the present approaching seemed to sense it, hesitating just beyond the corner, watching, calculating, waiting. He could feel the danger in every pulse, every shadow, and he knew that. They could not ignore it. Stay close, he whispered, his voice steady though his body tensed. She nodded, gripping his hand tightly, and together they moved toward a safer, darker path. The city around them seemed alive, reacting to their bond, to their energy, and to the danger lurking in the shadows. It was as if the world itself had taken notice of the miracle that had begun with his blood, and the presence following them was only the first test. Kieran realized that this was no ordinary night, no ordinary rescue, and no ordinary bond. They were connected in a way that could change everything for better or for worse. Minutes passed like hours as they navigated twisting alleys and hidden passages. Every step they took seemed to ripple through the energy linking them, and Kieran began to notice strange effects. Small at first, but undeniable. He could influence objects slightly by thinking, almost like a magnetic pull, and the woman, when she reached out, could heal small wounds, even restore fading lights. It was miraculous, terrifying, and exciting all at once. They had discovered powers neither had. Anticipated, born from the bond of blood and courage, and every instinct told Kieran that they had only scratched the surface. Suddenly, they reached a quiet rooftop overlooking the city, the neon lights painting their faces in eerie colors. The woman turned to him, her eyes full of questions. "Kieran, what is happening to us?" He shook his head, unsure, but he could feel one thing clearly. They were no longer alone in the city, and every shadow could hide a threat. Yet at the same time, the bond between them gave him hope, courage, and a strange sense of invincibility. For the first time, he realized that the danger approaching them might also be the key to understanding the power they had discovered. As they looked out over the city, the wind carrying the distant hum of machinery and life, Kieran felt the presence behind him again, distant yet unrelenting, and he knew, with a chilling certainty, that the journey had only just begun. The connection that had started with a single act of courage, a gift of blood, was evolving, growing stronger, and now would lead them into a world of mystery, danger, and unimaginable discovery. And in that moment, high above the city, Kieran and the woman understood the truth. Their bond was more than survival. It was destiny, and the night ahead would test it in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Kieran and the woman remained on the rooftop, their breaths mixing with the cool night air. The city below them shimmered with neon lights. But even the beauty could not erase the sense of threat lingering in every shadow. Kieran's instinct screamed that they were being watched, the energy between them pulsing faster, responding to the invisible eyes that followed their every move. He tightened his grip on her hand, feeling the bond between them hum like a living thing, alert and protective. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the edge of a nearby building. Moving faster than any human could, it landed silently a few meters away, and Kieran's body stiffened, the pulse of danger echoing through his veins. The figure was tall, cloaked in dark armor that shimmered faintly with technological energy. Its face was hidden, but Kieran could feel its intelligence, its focus, its intent. It was hunting them, studying them, and calculating the moment to strike. The woman stepped slightly behind him, sensing the danger as well. I think they want me," she whispered, voice trembling. "And they know about us." Kieran's jaw tightened, anger and fear mixing into determination. "Then we don't give them a chance," he said, his voice calm, steady, though his body hummed with the strange energy flowing through him. He felt the connection to her tighten, as if she drew strength from him, and he from her, and together they were more than human. The figure moved again, gliding closer, each step silent yet deliberate. Kieran noticed faint energy lines tracing the armor, moving like veins of light, feeding power into the figure. It was advanced, more than human technology, and the danger it represented was immediate and real. He realized that whoever, or whatever, this was, they were not merely after the woman. They wanted the bond, the power they now shared, and they would stop at nothing to obtain it. Kieran looked at her, the glow of her life pulsing gently. Yet the new energy inside her radiated power. "Listen to me," he said quickly. "We have to move. Follow my lead and trust me." The woman nodded, her eyes wide with fear, but shining with determination. Together, they leapt to the next rooftop, energy flowing between them, enhancing their reflexes. The figure followed silently, landing where they had just been, its movements precise and deadly as they ran across the rooftops. Kieran realized something frightening. The figure could sense the energy between them, adjusting its strategy in real time, predicting their moves. Every leap, every turn, every pulse of connection was being monitored, analyzed, countered. It was relentless, and Kieran knew they had to find a way to escape, or they would be trapped. They ducked into a narrow alley, the glow of neon reflecting off the walls. Kieran felt the bond strengthen, as if the woman's fear and his own focus created a protective shield around them. He tried to concentrate, to test the limits of the energy that pulsed between them. A small ripple of force expanded outward, knocking over a few crates and sending sparks from broken wires. The figure hesitated, retreating slightly, analyzing, calculating. But it did not leave. It was patient, and that made it even more dangerous. The woman reached out instinctively, her hand brushing Kieran's, and suddenly a wave of energy shot from her fingertips. The ground trembled slightly, and even the figure paused, taken by surprise. Kieran realized that the bond did not just protect. They could also fight together, a unity of energy and life force, but it was dangerous, exhausting, and unpredictable. Each use of the power drained them slightly, but also made them stronger, connected, alive. Suddenly, a loud metallic sound echoed from behind, and Kieran turned just in time to see drones dropping from above. They swarmed the alley, red lights flashing, ready to capture or harm. Kieran grabbed the woman's hand, and they surged forward together, energy flowing outward like a shield. The drones hesitated, sparks flying as the energy pulse disrupted their circuits. It was temporary, but bought them precious seconds that Kieran knew would be crucial for their survival. They reached an abandoned building and ducked inside, breathing heavily, hearts racing. The woman leaned against the wall, exhausted but alert. "We can't keep running forever," she said, her voice trembling. "They'll catch us eventually." Kieran nodded, understanding the truth. "They're not just after you," he said quietly. "They want us this bond. We have something they've never seen before, and they'll stop at nothing to take it." A low hum filled the room suddenly, and Kieran's senses flared. The figure, or something worse, was already inside, hidden, waiting. The city outside was alive with danger, and Kieran realized that this night was far from over. It was the beginning of a hunt, a test of their courage, their strength, and mysterious power that had started with a simple act of giving blood. He looked at the woman, her eyes shining with fear and trust. "No matter what happens," he whispered, "we face this together." The bond pulsed between them, alive and protective, yet vulnerable, and Kieran knew that every second from now on would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. Outside, the night air shimmered with danger, and the figure waited silently, patient, calculating. The hidden threat had revealed itself, and the real challenge had only just begun. For Kieran and the woman, survival was no longer enough. They had to fight, to protect, and to understand the incredible power that connected them. And the city, full of neon light and shadows, watched silently as the first move of a deadly game began. The night had grown colder, the neon lights flickering like distant stars over the city. Kieran and the woman crouched in the shadowed interior of the abandoned building, their breaths heavy, hearts pounding. Outside, the low hum of the city mixed with distant mechanical whirs, the hidden presence still circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Kieran's senses were heightened beyond reason. Every sound, every vibration, every faint flicker of light amplified. He could feel the tension in the air, the danger closing in, and the woman beside him, her hand tightly gripping his, pulsing with energy. Suddenly, the figure from before appeared at the entrance, moving silently yet with lethal precision. Its armor shimmered under the faint neon glow, energy lines moving across it like living veins. It spoke in a voice that was metallic, cold, and hollow. "Step away from her, or you will both be terminated." Kieran's heart raced, but he felt something stir inside the woman, a power he had not yet fully seen. He could feel the energy pulsing between them, stronger, faster, responding to the thread instinctively. The woman straightened, a faint glow spreading across her skin, her eyes shining with light. Kieran's pulse quickened as he realized something incredible. Her powers were awakening fully, fueled by the bond they shared. It started with a faint shimmer around her hands, then spread like wildfire, the air itself vibrating with the energy emanating from her. The figure advanced, but the energy pulse in the woman hit it like a shockwave, forcing it back, sparks flying off its armor. Kieran's eyes widened. She was not just defending herself. She was protecting him, repaying the life he had given her with a force beyond comprehension. The figure staggered but did not retreat, recalibrating, calculating, its movement precise and lethal. Kieran knew they were in a fight they could not lose, yet he felt the energy of their bond rising, merging with hers, creating a shield of light, warmth, and raw power. He touched her shoulder gently, and the moment their skin connected, the bond surged outward, a force so strong it shook the walls of the building. The figure staggered again, circuits sparking, its voice rising in alarm. Impossible, these readings. The woman's energy flared higher, now pulsing through the room, through Kieran, through the very air around them. She reached out instinctively, her hands glowing brighter, and a wave of force slammed into the figure, sending it crashing backward, smashing through the doorway into the night. Kieran stood in awe, watching as the power they had shared now fought in their favor, a repayment of his courage, his sacrifice. The figure struggled, trying to rise, but the energy pulse radiating from the woman in Kieran was relentless, protective, unstoppable. The city around them seemed to respond, distant lights flickering, sensors tripping, machines stuttering. It was as if the world itself recognized the bond between them, the courage of one life given for another, and the power that had emerged from it. Kieran's heart swelled with awe and fear. He had saved her, but now she had repaid him in a way he could never have imagined. Her voice, steady now, almost commanding, echoed through the room. "You gave me life, now I give it back to you." Kieran felt a warmth in his chest, the lingering exhaustion of the transfusion melting away, replaced by a new strength, a new vitality. The figure attempted one last lunge, but the combined energy of the woman and Kieran surged outward, a brilliant pulse of light. It was thrown back, completely incapacitated. Sparks flew, machines clattered, and for a moment, the city seemed to exhale, silent except for the hum of their newfound power. Kieran looked at her, awe and gratitude shining in his eyes. You saved me," he whispered, voice trembling. She smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief on her face. "We saved each other." She replied softly. The bond between them pulsed gently now. Steady, protective, a force they could feel, but also one that carried promise, mystery, and incredible power. Outside, the city had returned to its usual hum, but Kieran knew the danger was far from over. The figure, though defeated, was only a part of a larger threat, and the awakening of her power had surely been noticed by those who sought to control it. Yet, for the first time, Kieran felt hope, courage, and certainty. The incredible repayment she had given him was more than life. It was strength, protection, and a promise of loyalty and unity. He could feel it in every pulse of energy, every heartbeat shared, every subtle connection between them. The bond that had begun with his blood, with a selfless act of courage, had now evolved into something beyond imagination, something that could change not only their lives but the world. Kieran took her hand, holding it firmly, feeling the gentle warmth of their shared energy. "No matter what comes next," he said quietly, "we face it together." The woman nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the city lights and the energy that now connected them. For the first time, both felt the truth. Courage, sacrifice, and trust could create power beyond comprehension, and as they stood together, ready for whatever came next, the city's shadows seemed less threatening, the future less uncertain, for they had discovered that life given in selflessness could be returned in ways that were incredible, unimaginable, and eternal. But even as they caught their breath, a faint, almost imperceptible pulse in the distance made Kieran's senses flare. He knew that the hidden threat had not disappeared. It was only waiting, calculating, observing, and their journey was far from over. Yet, as he looked at her, feeling the bond that now coursed between them stronger than ever, he knew one thing. They were ready together for anything the night and the world could throw at them. The first light of dawn crept over the city, painting the skyline in shades of pink and gold. Kieran and the woman stood together on a high rooftop, overlooking the streets below, the events of the night still heavy in their minds. The adrenaline had faded, but the energy that bound them remained, pulsing softly, a gentle reminder of the bond that had begun with blood, courage, and trust. Kieran looked at her, awe and wonder reflecting in his eyes. "I never imagined anything like this could happen," he said quietly, his voice carrying both disbelief and gratitude. She smiled faintly, exhaustion evident in her posture, yet there was a strength in her eyes that had not been there before. "We save each other," she said softly, "and somehow I feel like this is only the beginning." Kieran nodded, feeling the truth in her words. They had survived incredible danger, awakened powers neither could fully understand, and repaid a kindness that had started with a simple act. The night had tested them, threatened them, but it had also forged something stronger than fear, stronger than any enemy. They had forged trust, courage, and an unbreakable bond. But even as they breathed the fresh morning air, Kieran could sense that the world around them had changed. The hidden threats that had stalked them in the night had not disappeared entirely. Far above, in the shadows of the tallest towers, observers watched, analyzing, waiting. Their defeat of the figure and the display of their combined power had surely been noticed, and Kieran knew this was only the first of many challenges to come. He looked at the woman, whose faint glow still pulsed, softly, and he realized that they were no longer ordinary humans. They were something more, something that carried both hope and danger in equal measure. As they moved through the quiet streets, still wary of watchers, Kieran felt the energy flow between them, a living connection. He noticed that small things reacted to their presence. Machines powered up more smoothly, lights flickered in response. Even the air seemed lighter. It was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else. But to them, it was a sign, a hint of potential their bond held. The woman reached out instinctively, touching a flickering street lamp, and it brightened instantly, steady and strong. Kieran marveled, realizing that the gift of life he had given her had now evolved into something that could influence the world around them. They stopped at a quiet park, hidden in the heart of the city, where nature and technology blended seamlessly. The woman sat on a bench, exhaustion heavy but her gaze sharp. Kieran crouched beside her, sensing her thoughts, her feelings, intertwined with his own. "It's incredible," he said softly. "I never thought one small act of courage could lead to all of this," she nodded, smiling faintly. "Courage can be contagious," she whispered, "and trust can create miracles." The bond they shared was no longer just physical. It was emotional, mental, almost spiritual, and Kieran realized that the night had not only changed them individually, but had changed the way they experienced life together. Suddenly, a faint pulse of energy rippled through the city, subtle yet undeniable. Kieran and the woman felt it instantly, the bond reacting as if warning them, yet also connecting them more deeply. The hidden observers had noticed the bond, and though the immediate danger had passed, the world now knew they existed. They had emerged victorious, but the journey ahead would not be easy. Kieran looked at the woman, eyes full of determination and hope. "No matter what comes, we face it together," he said, voice steady. She nodded, a faint glow pulsing between them, a silent agreement, a promise of unity. As the sun rose higher, the city below seemed to hum with new life. Unaware of the miracle that had unfolded in the shadows, Kieran felt a warmth in his chest, the exhaustion fading, replaced by a sense of purpose. He realized that every choice, every risk, every act of courage had led them to this point. The bond that had begun with blood, a simple act of selflessness, had grown into something incredible, powerful, and enduring. The woman reached out, resting her hand over his, energy pulsing. Softly, reassuringly, together they stood, looking out over the city, ready for whatever challenges awaited. The hidden watchers would continue to test them. The dangers would never fully disappear. But for the first time, Kieran understood that courage, trust, and sacrifice could create something stronger than fear, stronger than danger. They had repaid life with life, trust with loyalty, and kindness with power. And in that moment, standing together as the first rays of sunlight bathed the city in gold, they realized that the world was theirs to explore, not as ordinary humans, but as something more, bonded by courage, blood, and the incredible power of connection. The night had ended, but their story was just beginning, and as Kieran and the woman disappeared into the waking city, the bond between them pulsed quietly, a promise of strength, hope, and adventure, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. The world had changed. They had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The city was alive with neon lights and flying vehicles, the hum of machines mixing with the chatter of people. In the middle of this crowded, futuristic world, a man named Kieran walked alone, his eyes scanning the streets, always alert yet calm. He was an ordinary man in many ways, working in a small lab that studied human biology, but had a heart that cared for others, and sometimes that care got him into trouble. Tonight, the city felt different, heavier somehow, as if something unseen was moving in the shadows. Kieran's attention was drawn to a narrow alleyway where a group of people had gathered, their voices low but urgent, curious. He walked closer, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. There, in the middle of the alley, lay a woman, her body trembling, her skin pale under the neon glow. Smoke or mist floated around her, and a faint hissing sound came from her direction. The crowd hesitated, taking cautious steps back, murmuring among themselves, "Don't touch her, she's cursed." One man whispered, eyes wide with fear. Kieran ignored them, his instincts screaming that she needed help, and he stepped forward, careful but determined. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, kneeling beside her. The woman's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light, but she could barely speak. Her lips moved, forming a word he couldn't hear over the noise of the city. Kieran noticed a strange device on her arm, pulsing with red light, and realized it was some kind of life support or medical tool. The device was failing, and the woman's breathing was shallow, quick, like she had only minutes left. People in the crowd began to murmur louder, some taking out small devices, ready to call for help or record the scene. But Kieran's mind raced faster than theirs, thinking about the possibilities, the dangers, the risks. He had studied rare human conditions before, but this was unlike anything he had seen. Her blood, he realized suddenly, might be unique, altered by something scientific or unnatural, and somehow it seemed connected to his own health, though he did not understand how yet. The air smelled metallic, and Kieran could feel a slight tingling in his veins, almost like electricity running under his skin. He looked at the crowd, but they were frozen with fear, unwilling to act. He took a deep breath, knowing the choice he was about to make would change everything. Without thinking further, he made a decision, a choice that was both brave and dangerous. Kieran extended his arm, his veins visible under his skin. He whispered, "I'll help you, no matter what." The woman's eyes widened slightly, a faint glimmer of hope shining to the pain. He connected a small portable device to her arm, designed to transfer blood in a controlled way. The crowd gasped, some stepping back in fear, some watching in awe. They had never seen someone risk their own life for a stranger, especially in this cold, futuristic city. The machine hummed softly, and Kieran felt a sudden warmth in his chest. It was like his body knew exactly what to do, sending life through his veins into hers. Time seemed to slow, the city noises fading, leaving only the rhythmic pulse of the machine and the quick gasp of the woman. Kieran's mind raced with fear, worry, and an odd sense of calm, all at the same time. What if he made a mistake? What if his body couldn't handle it? Yet, as he looked at her face, pale but slowly gaining color, he knew he had no choice but to continue. Minutes felt like hours, and every second was filled with tension. The woman's breathing became steadier, her eyelids less heavy, and her lips moved again, trying to speak. Kieran strained to hear, leaning closer, but all he caught was a faint whisper of her name. He didn't understand it yet, but it felt important, almost like a key to something bigger, something beyond their current reality. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded from the device, and the red light turned bright, flashing urgently. The crowd panicked, shouting, "Stop! You're killing him!" Kieran ignored them, focusing on the woman, feeling a strange energy coursing through his veins. It was not pain, but a sensation he had never experienced. Like his body was waking up in ways he didn't know possible. His heart raced, but he felt strong, alive, as the act of saving her was also giving him something back. After what felt like an eternity, the woman's eyes opened fully, clear and bright. She took a deep, steady breath. The color returned to her cheeks. Kieran smiled, exhausted but relieved, knowing he had done something incredible. The crowd stood silently, watching, some in awe, some in disbelief. No one moved, no one spoke, except for a faint sound coming from the woman, almost like a sigh of gratitude. Kieran felt a mix of fear and wonder, not yet knowing that this moment was only the beginning. The connection between them had started, and it was stronger than anything he had ever imagined. As he helped her sit up, a sudden flash of light illuminated the alley. Something or someone was watching them from above, hidden in the shadows. Kieran sensed it immediately, the feeling of being observed, and in that moment, he knew the night was far from over. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next, and Kieran, tired but determined, realized that his choice to help her had set in motion events that could change not only their lives, but the world itself. Kieran felt the woman's pulse strengthen under his hands, the warmth of life slowly returning to her body. Yet even as relief washed over him, a cold fear crept into his chest, whispering warnings he could not ignore. He stepped back, breathing heavily, noticing the strange device still attached to her arm, blinking urgently. Something about it was not just medical. It seemed alive, pulsing with a rhythm that matched hers, and somehow it also seemed to resonate with him. The woman looked up at him, her eyes wide, almost pleading. Kieran wanted to speak, to reassure her, but he realized he did not know what words could possibly comfort someone in her condition.